Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today saw the release of Empire of Sin on the Nintendo Switch. This is one I've personally been very excited for, but also nervous because, well, there's been like zero Switch footage. With that in mind though, I wanted to solve that problem and show you some just like early gameplay, give you a breakdown of how it all works, like think the controls, the graphics then, the frame rate as well, and then even show you some handheld footage. That is because yes, turn-based games, they're great fun on the go, but also an absolute pain when it comes to small text and just generally performance on that smaller screen. So with that luck, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So first up for gameplay, the opening few seconds you will be presented with possibly the biggest choice in the game. Which of 14 mob bosses will you be? Who will define your legacy in this Prohibition Chicago? These are not just visual either, they come with perks. Each has an ability which are mostly combat focused, an empire bonus, some sort of like perk that will generate cash. Think maybe brothels are cheaper to open or your brewery can produce booze quicker. Finally then there's also a diplomatic bonus, and this will impact your relationships with like other mobs or the police maybe in the Chicago area. Tons of text, took me about 15 minutes to go through, and it was a challenging as hell decision as all the characters look fantastic. The decisions though, they do not stop there, because before you even get to playing, it's time now to set some options. You can select the number of neighborhoods you will be warring to take control of, that's an option from 3 to 10, and then how many enemy factions are in place. This really does depend on the neighborhood count, but it can be a minimum of 6 and up to a maximum of 10. Finally then, difficulty wise, you'll have a choice of 5, from associate, so very easy, through to boss, which will no doubt completely crush your soul. Gameplay wise, I'm pretty much going to walk you through the tutorial here because the game says it honestly best. Combat here first of all is turn-based. The queue of characters waiting to take their turn, it is displayed at the top of the screen. That turn order, it is decided by a character's initiative stat. If enemies have a boss then, that's also displayed but under their portrait. Now at the bottom of the screen you have the action bar. Most of these I will say are combat based, but of course expect things occasionally like the ability to self-heal, or maybe you'll need to reload your weapon. These actions all are character dependent. Every action though is associated to action points, and each character gets 2 each round. Most cost like 1 point, simply firing your gun for example, but special abilities and special weapons will require both of your points. The most important thing in all of this, no doubt, your use of cover, represented then by the shield on screen. It can either be half full or complete, but of course less, no doubt, leads to more death, and probably not going to be the best strategy if I can give you that one tip if you have the choice of going to either. Each mission then ends with either a victory or of course a failure screen, but on the victory screen it's going to break down your faction standing with local gangs and law enforcement based of course on the actions you took. Then it will show you the cash you received and a combat report and any loot you acquired for your troubles. Missions that take place at a business then, or racket as the game puts it, it will actually allow you to take ownership of them, and boom, that is how you start building your empire, taking over these businesses. Now if you just want to piss off other factions, you can also do that by simply ransacking them or just kind of smashing them up. Why would you go to war though instead of just outright buying, let's say, a speakeasy? It's simple, it may cost some blood, but it's going to be cheaper to take over a set up building rather than building, from the ground up. You even get to name the business, which is a really small but also really nice touch. With these businesses though, expect a management aspect as well, so think you can upgrade them where you could add things like security, work on the ambience, or drive a new business via just some simple word of mouth. It's pretty cool seeing these upgrades take effect, honestly. Like when I upgraded the first one, the ambience, a band just appears on stage and they're obviously playing that big band kind of vibe. It really sets the tone. What did surprise me the most, what I did not expect to see, was between missions, so you get free movement to walk the streets of Chicago. So yes, this isn't just turn-based combat, but there's all these different moving parts in between. After completing my first mission, for example, I had some local criminals come hunt me down in the streets to ask for a job, and of course I obliged. It's actually very cool, the freedom it's giving you to connect all these different gameplay pieces together. Everything here is about earning cash, building that empire, but at the same time, it always costs something out of your pocket, so it's going to be a balancing act with progression to build the best business, attract of course the right talent, all while keeping a decent chunk of that change in your own pocket. Sometimes I figure it's going to be best to choose those with smaller takes, for example, to join the gang. Then you can upgrade them with top of the line equipment from the black market, your one-stop shop for everything that can basically kill someone. One thing I will say, early impressions with the free movement, it is a tiny bit sluggish, so you may want to jump to the impressively big overworld map because you can select a location and movement does become automatic. The final piece to gameplay then, there are sit down moments, basically conversations with others. Dialogue options do present themselves and these very much set the outcome. You can make small talk, learn more about who you are speaking to, or just cut to the chase and get to work. As I said, these dialogue options though do have attributes, so for example my first mission, he offered me $500. I used persuasion and got him up to 600. The empire building side of the gameplay and building that bank account, it starts immediately just to set that tone. The tutorial, it culminates in you taking over a district, getting your first safe house, and here comes the menus, and there's a whole lot of text here. It's all contained under the Empire Management tab. From here you can see things like your customers at your rackets, what rackets do you have, you can break down every single business and what status it's in. You can even see a financial screenshot of your current bank account. Then it introduces missions to complete, and that is it. Welcome to Empire of Sin. It's time to take over this city. Gotta say, that's literally like the opening hour of gameplay, and the amount of mechanics happening at once is a little overwhelming. This isn't just simply turn-based strategy, but business management, production, financial management, hiring your mob, setting individual aspects to a business, and then just a ton of menus, let's face it. You saw for yourself here in the footage, and that's honestly not even touching on things like the free movement, the dialogue moments, and that's all going to clearly play a part in your future in this city. I do have a few issues, but I can't wait to now see the end game because yeah, I'm seriously impressed and I'm hoping they can pull all of these different things together. My only issue so far though, the free movement, as I said, is sluggish, and the control scheme very busy. You're going to be using the left stick, right stick and D-pad just to select options. I need to get to work on just kind of ingraining those now in my memory. Before we do get to graphics though and frame rate with all these menus, let's take a quick look at some handheld footage and see how it stands up. So Handheld, I'll put it out there now, they've done a great job. The moment I saw that Empire screen with all the text, I got this fear wash over me. With that much text, it's frequently a disaster in Handheld. Well, it turns out they absolutely nailed it. The user interface size increases for Handheld mode, and it is about as sharp as they come, so kudos to the team here for just absolutely delivering. Likewise, visually, it looks good. If I will say there is just a slight amount of blur to it all, which isn't, unheard of with the Switch. I think you could comfortably play this Handheld though without issue. Graphically then, it's another surprising area, better than I expected. When we saw zero Nintendo Switch footage, I tend to panic, but from what I've seen this far, graphically I do like it. We have a good amount of detail in the world during combat. The character animations are solid. It has a great zoom in effect for attacks, which causes no issue for performance. And when we do rotate and zoom in and out, the camera does so with near to no issue, no stutter. Objects even appear transparent for viewpoints, and it all works as you would expect. The face-to-face dialogue moments don't quite fare as well as the rest of the package, honestly. Noticeably, I've got to say, the clothing, super low detail with just the textures on display, but nothing that particularly, impacts the experience. One thing that is honestly bugging me though in these moments, there's just no attempt at all here of lip syncing, and that just, I can't help but have that audio cue and then what I'm seeing on screen, and it really is bugging me. Frame rate then, and so far again solid. While it is unlocked, it tends to remain between 29 to 34 frames per second throughout. Of course this could change with progression, but the location here I chose, it is busy, and I kind of went a little haywire with the camera. I did some pans, some fast movements, and yeah, the game, it did keep up for the most part outside of the very occasional slight stutter. If you know the genre, frame rate, it isn't a huge deal, but yeah, a lot better than I figured it would be after my time with something like XCOM, which has that similar squad based approach but doesn't really have the performance we're seeing here. Finally, audio, and it's a highlight in some ways, meaning the music and the sound effects, the guns, punches, blood splats, they all carry some serious weight, which I do appreciate. It for sure adds to that sense of, tension. And then the music, it just matches the Chicago Prohibition setting perfectly, comprising mostly of a lot of big band and jazz. With 14 mob bosses to choose from though, this next bit is no doubt different by the character you choose, but I chose Frankie, an Irish mob boss, and his voice acting, it ranges somewhere from okay to pretty damn bad. Also, every movement he says something as well, and it's just saying a few pieces of dialogue each and every time. It's gonna get old quick. Thankfully, they clearly knew this may be the case, and they added a dedicated character volume in the settings that is going all the way down to 0 in my case. So overall, first impressions are good, but as I said, it's very much that, first impressions. This is the first few hours of gameplay, and no doubt what we've got ahead of us here is a huge experience. The graphics hold up though so far, the frame rate seems solid, the controls, they'll take some getting used to, but nothing that I would consider a problem outside of that free movement. And then content wise, already it's put more on the table than most would even dare. Yes, there's a few minor stutters, and there's a few long loading screens, but I will take that if that's what we need for this performance. What was a compliment though, I gotta say here, is also my concern. The amount of content, all the moving parts. Can they manage to build out all of these different mechanics to work in unison? Strategy fans though, if you were just concerned from a level of does it work, what's the frame rate like, all that good stuff, I would say it's absolutely worth a look. Also know this has seen a patch and you will need to update it manually from the main menu, but there is also a second one on the way. It's been submitted, now it's simply waiting on Nintendo to, push it through and approve it and all that good stuff. If you do have any questions though, just let me know in the comments down below. With that, a shout out to the patrons of the channel who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. If you do want to check that out for yourself, I've linked it in the video description down below. Then hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.